The Grand Amphitheater on Conclave Prime had witnessed countless historic moments across 10,000 years. Today would be remembered as the day everything changed. Ambassador Ji-won Kim stood in the human delegation pod, her hands steady despite the weight of what was coming. Around her, representatives from 10,000 species filled the massive chamber. Some floated in anti-gravity fields, others breathed different atmospheres behind shimmering force fields. The diversity was stunning. But right now, all those alien eyes were focused on humanity with the same expression: hostility. Chancellor Vex Tar of the Velkari Empire rose from his throne at the center of the amphitheater. His species had ruled the galactic trade routes for 3,000 years. They looked almost reptilian, with scales that shimmered like oil on water and eyes that never blinked. When he spoke, his voice boomed through translation devices in every language known to the galaxy. Members of the Galactic Senate, we gather today to address a threat to our peaceful civilization. Humanity has violated the Treaty of Borders. They have built military installations in restricted zones. They have developed weapons technology without Senate approval. Most dangerous of all, they have discovered something that threatens the stability of our entire society. Ji-won felt her jaw tighten. She knew what was coming. 3 months ago, Dr. So-min Han had successfully tested the Ghost Drive, a device that allowed ships to travel through dark matter currents. What took other species weeks to travel, humans could now do in days. The ancient species who controlled the trade routes had panicked immediately. Senator Kren of the Ashari Collective stood. Her people were known for their wisdom and fairness. Ji-won had hoped Kren might speak for humanity, but the senator's face showed only sadness. I have reviewed the evidence. Humanity's expansion has been aggressive. Their new technology, if uncontrolled, could destabilize the economic foundations of 1,000 worlds. We shared our discovery freely, Ji-won shouted, unable to contain herself. We offered the Ghost Drive technology to the entire Senate. You refused it because it would end your monopoly on trade routes. A wave of angry sounds filled the chamber. Clicks, whistles, roars, and sounds Ji-won had no words for. Chancellor Vex Tar raised one clawed hand for silence. You are young, Ambassador Kim. Your species has been among the stars for merely 30 years. You do not understand the delicate balance that maintains peace across the galaxy. The elder races have guided civilization for millennia. We know what happens when primitive species gain power too quickly. Chaos, war, destruction. Primitive? Ji-won's voice was cold now. We may be new to space, but we're not children. We've earned our place here. Another delegate rose. This one was from the Thoraxian hive, a species that looked like massive insects. Humanity's military buildup cannot be ignored. They have constructed more warships in 30 years than most species build in 3 centuries. They claim it is for defense, but we see the truth. They prepare for conquest. Right, Ji-won wanted to scream. Yes, humanity had built ships, because from the moment they joined the Senate, they had felt the distrust. The older species looked at humans and saw something they feared. Maybe it was because humans learned too fast. Maybe it was because humans refused to bow and scrape before ancient empires. Whatever the reason, humanity had known this day might come. We built ships because we knew you would never accept us as equals, Ji-won said quietly. The chamber's acoustics carried her words to every corner. We came to the stars, hoping to find friends. Instead, we found masters who expected us to serve. Chancellor Vex Tar's expression never changed. The vote will now commence. All in favor of Resolution 7743, authorizing the containment and subjugation of humanity, signify your approval. Lights began appearing across the amphitheater. Blue for yes, red for no. Ji-won watched as the board filled with blue. So much blue. Species they had helped. Species they had traded with. Species they had thought were friends. All voting to destroy humanity's freedom. The final count appeared. 8,247 inches favor. 1,253 against. The resolution passes, Vextar announced. Humanity is hereby given 30 standard days to surrender all military vessels, all colony worlds, and all technological research to Senate authority. Failure to comply will result in military action. Ji-won felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear. Something harder. She had hoped it wouldn't come to this, but Earth's government had prepared her for this exact scenario. She stood and spoke clearly. The United Earth government rejects this resolution. We will not surrender our freedom. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not bow to tyranny dressed up as democracy. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some species cheered. Others roared in anger. Chancellor Vextar simply watched her with those unblinking eyes. Then you choose war, he said simply. No, Ji-won replied. You chose war when you decided that being old meant being superior. You chose war when you saw our success as a threat instead of a gift. You chose war when you mistook our offer of friendship for submission. She gathered her things and began walking toward the exit. We didn't want this, but if you come for us, you'll learn something about humanity that you should have learned before you voted. And what is that? Vextar asked. Ji-won stopped at the door and looked back at the 10,000 species who had just declared themselves humanity's enemies. You'll learn that being young doesn't mean being weak. You'll learn that being primitive doesn't mean being stupid. And you'll learn that humans have survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own worst impulses. We're very, very good at surviving. She left the chamber. Behind her, she could hear the Senate delegates already discussing how to divide humanity's colonies among themselves. They were so certain of victory. After all, they had thousands of species and millions of ships. Humanity had 40 colonies and maybe 10,000 vessels. As Ji-won reached her ship, she activated her encrypted communicator. Captain Do-yoon Park's face appeared on the screen. He was waiting in Earth's orbital command center, 30 light-years away. They voted for war, Ji-won said simply. Do-yoon nodded. He looked tired, but unsurprised. Then, we activate Protocol Omega? Yes. Ji-won felt the weight of that word. Protocol Omega was something they had hoped never to use. It meant total war. It meant humanity would fight with everything they had, holding nothing back. Tell Admiral Minho to begin operations. And, Do-yoon? Yes, Ambassador. Tell him to make them regret this vote. Tell him to show them exactly what happens when you corner a human. Do-yoon's expression hardened into something that might have been a smile. With pleasure. They wanted to see what humanity becomes when threatened. Let's show them. The communication ended. Ji-won sat alone in her ship as it prepared for departure. Through the viewport, she could see Conclave Prime, the shining jewel of galactic civilization. In 30 days, the Senate's fleets would move toward Earth, expecting an easy victory. They had no idea what was coming. Humanity had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. Not because they wanted war, but because they understood something the ancient species had forgotten. Peace was precious. Freedom was sacred, and both were worth fighting for. The Senate thought they were crushing a primitive species before it could become dangerous. They were about to learn they were 30 years too late. Admiral Minho Choi stood on the bridge of the UEDS Indomitable, humanity's largest warship. Through the massive viewport, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the darkness of space. He had defended this planet for 30 years. Today, that defense would truly begin. Admiral, we're receiving evacuation reports from the outer colonies, said Commander Hae-jin Lee, his chief science officer. Her fingers moved across holographic displays, showing the positions of human settlements across 40 star systems. Most civilians are complying. But Prometheus Station refuses to evacuate. Minho wasn't surprised. Tae Yang-shin, the governor of Prometheus Station, was as stubborn as they came. The colony sat at the edge of human space, the furthest outpost from Earth. It would be the first target when the Senate's fleets arrived. "Get me Governor Shin," Mingyu ordered. A moment later, Taeyang's weathered face appeared on screen. Behind him, Minho could see the colony's command center. People were moving with purpose, not panic. "I know what you're going to say, Admiral," Taeyang said before Minho could speak. "You want us to run. But this is our home. We built this colony with our own hands. We're not abandoning it." "The Senate is sending their vanguard fleet. 500 ships," Minho said quietly. "You have 3 defense platforms and maybe 20 civilian vessels. This isn't bravery, Governor. This is suicide." Taeyang smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "Then, I guess you better send us some help. Because we're staying." Minho wanted to argue, but he understood. Humans were stubborn. Maybe that's why the Senate feared them. He nodded once. "Help is already on the way. Hold for 72 hours. Can you do that?" "We'll do whatever it takes." The communication ended. Heijin looked at Minho with concern. "Admiral, the Vanguard will arrive at Prometheus in 48 hours. Our nearest battle group is 90 hours away, using conventional drives." "Who said anything about conventional drives?" Minho turned to his communications officer. "Contact Lieutenant Jiyoung Kang. Tell her the ghosts are going hunting." Across Earth's orbital shipyards, a new type of vessel was preparing for launch. They looked wrong somehow. Too smooth. Too dark. Regular warships had clear engine sections, weapon arrays, sensor dishes. These ships were sleek shadows, almost invisible against the black of space. Lieutenant Jiyoung Kang sat in the cockpit of her ghost fighter, running final system checks. She was 26 years old and had been flying since she was 18. Around her, 79 other ghost fighters were doing the same. They called themselves the Seventh Wing. After today, the galaxy would have other names for them. "All wings. This is Control," a voice crackled over the comm. "Ghost drives are charged. Target is Prometheus Station. Your job is to buy time until the main fleet arrives. The Senate Vanguard has 500 ships. You have 80. Even with the ghost drive, this is going to be rough." Jiyoung felt her heart pounding. Not from fear, from excitement. Her entire life, she had trained for this moment. Humanity's first real combat with an alien force. "Control, this is Ghost Leader," she said calmly. 500 to 80? Sounds like they need reinforcements." Laughter echoed across the comm channel. "Ghost Drive. Activating in 3, 2, 1. The universe twisted. Jiyoung had made hundreds of test jumps, but it never got less weird. For a moment, she existed everywhere and nowhere. Then, reality snapped back, and they were in the Prometheus system. "Contact," her sensor officer shouted. "Senate Vanguard Fleet, entering system from the opposite vector. 500, 4 ships confirmed. Multiple species. They're forming a standard siege formation." Jiyoung studied her tactical display. The enemy fleet was massive, spreading out to surround Prometheus Station. They weren't expecting resistance. Why would they? 80 small fighters against 500 warships wasn't a battle. It was pest control. "All wings, break into strike groups. Remember your training. Hit and fade. Never where they expect. Show them what ghost fighters can do." She pushed her throttle forward and dove toward the enemy fleet. Her fighter screamed through space, closing the distance in seconds. Weapon systems armed. Target locked. A massive battlecruiser from the Velkari Empire sat dead ahead, its shields configured for long-range bombardment, not close combat. "Ghost jump in 3. Her fighter vanished. The dark matter drive bent space around her, making her ship phase out of normal reality for exactly 2 seconds. When she reappeared, she was inside the battlecruiser's shield perimeter, less than a kilometer from its hull. Her missiles launched, all 6 of them. Then she jumped again before the enemy could even register her presence. Behind her, the battlecruiser's shields flickered and died. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. It wouldn't sink, but it was out of the fight. Across the battlefield, 79 other ghost fighters were doing the same thing. Appearing, striking, vanishing. The Senate vanguard had never seen anything like it. They fired wildly at empty space. They tried to track the human ships but couldn't. How do you fight an enemy that can appear anywhere? Ghost Leader, this is Ghost 7. A voice yelled over the comm. I've got 3 cruisers on my tail. Jump to marker Delta 4. I'll be there in 5 seconds. Jiyoung calculated the jump coordinates in her head and activated the ghost drive. When she emerged, she was behind the 3 cruisers, chasing Ghost 7. They hadn't noticed her yet. She armed her main cannon and fired 3 precise shots, 3 explosions, 3 fewer enemies. The battle raged for 2 hours. It should have been a massacre, but not the kind the Senate expected. Their 500 ships flailed uselessly, while 80 human fighters carved through their formations like sharks through a school of fish. Governor Taeyang watched from Prometheus Station's command center, his mouth hanging open. Are you seeing this? He whispered to his tactical officer. Yes, sir. The Senate vanguard is. They're retreating. Impossible. But it was true. Desperately trying to escape the system. But the ghost fighters gave them no mercy. Any ship that tried to run found human fighters already waiting at their jump point. When it was over, the count was devastating. Of the Senate's 504 ships, 0 survived. Some were destroyed. Most were disabled and drifting. Human losses. 3 fighters. Lieutenant Jiyoung sat in her cockpit, breathing hard. Around her, her pilots were cheering over the comm. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. All ghost fighters. This is Admiral Minho. A voice cut through the celebration. Excellent work. Return to Prometheus for resupply and repairs. But stay ready. This was just their vanguard. The real war is about to begin. Jiyoung looked at the wreckage floating around Prometheus Station. Ships from a dozen different species, all destroyed by 80 human pilots. She thought about Ambassador Jiwon's words from the Senate, about showing the galaxy what humans could do. Mission accomplished. On Earth, Admiral Minho watched the battle reports with satisfaction. The Senate had expected an easy victory. Instead, they got a bloody nose. But he knew this was just the beginning. The Senate had millions of ships. Humanity had thousands. The numbers still heavily favored the enemy. But numbers weren't everything. Humanity had spent 30 years preparing. They had the ghost drive. They had tactics the Senate couldn't predict. And most importantly, they had something the ancient species had forgotten. Desperation. When you're fighting for survival, you fight harder. When you're defending your home, you fight smarter. When the galaxy tells you to surrender or die, you teach them a third option. You win. Send a message to all Senate frequencies, Minho ordered. I want every species to hear this. The communications officer nodded. You're broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. Live. Minho looked directly into the camera. He thought about his daughter on Earth, about the billions of humans across 40 colonies, about Ambassador Jiwon standing alone in that Senate chamber. He thought about all of it, and let it fuel his words. To the Galactic Senate. You declared war on humanity because you feared what we might become. Now you'll learn what we already are. We are survivors. We are innovators. We are warriors when we must be. You sent 500 ships to crush one colony. Those ships are gone. Their crews are alive. Because unlike you, we don't murder prisoners. But they're out of the fight. He leaned closer to the camera. This is your only warning. Leave humanity alone. Return to your worlds. End this war before it truly begins. Because if you don't, we'll bring the war to you. And you'll learn why humans don't stay conquered. The message ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched. Some laughed. Some felt fear for the first time in centuries. And some, like Senator Couren, felt a terrible certainty that the galaxy had made a catastrophic mistake. The war had begun, and humanity was just getting started. Commander Yoonji Park checked her equipment one final time. The stealth suit was fitted perfectly. The plasma cutter was charged. Her team of 12 special operations soldiers waited in the shadows of the transport ship, ready to begin their mission. 2 minutes to target, the pilot whispered over the comm. Velkari command station dead ahead. They still haven't detected us. Unji smiled behind her helmet. The Velkari had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had technology humans couldn't even understand. But they had grown comfortable. Safe. They never imagined anyone would dare strike at their command centers. That was their first mistake. The galaxy had expected humanity to defend their colonies and wait for the Senate's massive fleets to arrive. Instead, Admiral Minho had given simple orders. Attack. Strike. Everywhere. At once. Make them defend everything. Which meant they could defend nothing. In the 2 weeks since Prometheus Station, human forces had hit 70 different Senate targets, supply depots, communication relays, shipyards. Every attack was surgical, precise, devastating. The Senate's vast fleets were scattered across the galaxy, trying to protect everything while achieving nothing. Approaching docking port 7, the pilot announced. It's a maintenance entrance. Security should be minimal. Should be. Unji didn't like that word. But intelligence had been good so far. The Velkari were arrogant. They never thought their home systems could be touched. Their second mistake. The transport latched onto the station with barely a whisper. Unji's team moved through the airlock in complete silence. Inside, the station was huge. Miles of corridors. Thousands of personnel. Finding their target would be difficult, unless you knew where to look. Yuna, you're up, Eunji said quietly. Specialist Yuna Jung opened her portable computer and connected to the station's network. Her fingers flew across the holographic keyboard. Back on Earth, Yuna had been a hacker who broke corporate security for fun. Now she was breaking alien military networks for survival. I'm in, Yuna whispered. Their security is actually pretty good, but they're not expecting internal threats. Downloading their entire command database now, including, oh, this is interesting. What? Orders from the Elder Council. Plans for something called the Omega device. It's a weapon, Unji. A really, really bad weapon. They're planning to use it on Earth. Yoonji felt cold fear in her gut. Get everything. We need to know what we're dealing with. While Yuna worked, the rest of the team set up their surprise. Engineer Huan Li was assembling something that looked like a mess of wires and circuits. Unji knew better. Huan was a genius who could turn coffee makers into weapons. This particular device was much more sophisticated. Cascading mass disruptor is ready, Huan said quietly. When I activate it, every ship within 10,000 kilometers will lose power. Shields, engines, weapons, everything. They'll be drifting coffins. For how long? Forever. Unless they completely rebuild their power systems. Which could take months. Yoonji nodded. Months was good. Ships that couldn't fight were ships that couldn't kill humans. Download complete, Yuna announced. And I left them a little present. Every console in this station is about to display a message from humanity. Seemed rude, not to say hello. 30 seconds later, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Velkari soldiers rushed through corridors, trying to find the intruders, but Yoonji's team was already gone, racing back to their transport. Behind them, every screen in the command station displayed the same image, the Earth flag. Below it, simple words in every galactic language. You wanted war. You found it. Surrender now, or learn what humans do when you threaten our home. The transport detached and jumped to dark matter transit before the Valkyrie could seal the station. As they emerged near the fleet staging area, Huan activated his device. The effect was instantaneous. 120 Valkyrie warships suddenly went dark. No power, no shields, no weapons, just hulking metal boxes floating in space. Ghost Fleet, this is Reaper Team. Unji broadcast on the secure channel. Target is neutralized. 120 ships disabled and ready for capture. Confirmed, Reaper Team, came Admiral Minho's voice. Recovery teams are jumping in now. Excellent work. Unji allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. 120 warships captured without firing a shot. The Senate was learning that humans didn't fight like other species. They fought smart. Across the galaxy, similar operations were happening. Human special forces teams struck at targets that should have been impossible to reach. Each victory was small, but they added up. Within 3 weeks of the war starting, humanity had captured or disabled over 2,000 Senate ships. The Senate's response was chaos. Grand Admiral Torvas of the Valkyrie military sat in his command chamber, staring at reports that made no sense. How were humans everywhere at once? How did they know where every weakness was? How were they winning? Sir, we've lost contact with another supply convoy, an aide reported nervously. That's the 18th this week. Where was it? The Krelos system. Our intelligence said there were no human forces within 50 light years. Torvas slammed his clawed fist on the table. Your intelligence is worthless. The humans are making fools of us. He wasn't wrong. The Galactic Senate had assumed their overwhelming numbers meant automatic victory. But war wasn't just about numbers. It was about logistics, supply lines, communication, morale. Humans were destroying all of it. The Senate's fleets needed supply lines stretching across the galaxy. Human ships used the Ghost Drive to return home for supplies instantly. The Senate had to protect thousands of systems. Humans only had to protect 40 colonies. The Senate's forces were made up of hundreds of species who didn't always work well together. Humanity's forces had one goal: survive. It made all the difference. In the Azure Nebula, the balance finally shifted. The Senate assembled a massive fleet. 10,000 ships from 50 different species. This time, they would crush humanity's fleet through pure, overwhelming force. Captain Doyun Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the enemy fleet approach. 10,000 ships. His force numbered just 200. Sir, they're demanding our surrender, his communications officer said. Tell them we'll consider it, Doyun replied calmly. After they surrender to us. The enemy fleet commander's response was predictable. Fury. Insults. Threats. Doyun listened patiently. Are we in position? He asked his tactical officer quietly. Yes, sir. The entire nebula is ready. Then let's show them why you don't corner humans in a cloud of space dust. The Senate fleet charged forward, weapons armed. They entered the nebula confident in their overwhelming numbers. That confidence lasted about 30 seconds. Juan's cascading mass disruptors weren't limited to small devices. Over the past week, human engineering teams had seeded the entire Azure Nebula with massive versions of his invention. When Doyun gave the signal, they all activated simultaneously. 10,000 enemy ships suddenly lost power, all at once. Every shield dropped, every weapon went offline, every engine died. The human fleet moved through the helpless enemy ships like reapers through wheat. But they didn't destroy. They disabled. They boarded. They captured. By the end of the day, humanity had taken 9,000 enemy ships intact. The 1,000 that escaped did so only because Doyun let them go. Let them run, he told his officers. Let them tell the Senate what happened here. Fear is a weapon too. News of the Azure Nebula disaster spread through Senate space like wildfire. 9,000 ships captured. Not destroyed. Captured. The crews were alive, treated well according to human prisoners. But the ships themselves now bore Earth's flag. In the Senate chambers, panic was setting in. Species that had enthusiastically voted for war were now reconsidering. Smaller species, Those who had been pressured to vote yes by the elder races began sending secret messages to Earth. Senator Kren was one of them. She used a private, encrypted channel that she hoped the Elder Council wouldn't detect. Ambassador Jiwan, please, you must listen, Kren's message said. Her usually calm voice shook. The war is going badly for us. Anyone with eyes can see it, but the Elder Council refuses to admit defeat. They're planning something terrible. I don't know the details, but I've heard them mention the Omega device. Please. You have to stop this war before they use it. If they do, billions will die. Jiwan received the message in her quarters on Earth. She immediately forwarded it to Admiral Minho and President Boram Yoon. Within hours, Earth's leadership was analyzing the intelligence Yuna had stolen from the Velkari command station. What they found made their blood run cold. The Omega device wasn't just a weapon. It was genocide in a box. Ancient technology from a dead species, capable of sterilizing entire star systems. The Elder Council planned to use it on Earth and all human colonies simultaneously. If they activated it, humanity would be extinct within days. How long do we have? President Boram asked quietly. Unknown, Minho replied. But we can't wait to find out. We need to end this war. Now, before they get desperate enough to actually use it. Jiwan looked at the holographic display showing the Omega device schematics. There's one way to stop them. We go straight for their throat. We show them that we can destroy their homeworlds just as easily as they plan to destroy ours. You're talking about attacking the Velkari home system, Boram said. That's the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. I know, Jiwan replied. But I'm not talking about destroying it. Just proving we could if we wanted to. Show them mercy when we have them beaten. Make them understand that humans are better than they are. Minho nodded slowly. It's risky. But it might work. And we're running out of time. The decision was made. Humanity would strike at the heart of the Velkari Empire. Not to conquer. Not to kill. But to prove a point. Sometimes, mercy is the strongest weapon of all. President Boram Yoon had not slept in 3 days. She sat in Earth's command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of human forces across the galaxy. Behind her, Admiral Minho and Ambassador Jiwan waited for her decision. The choice before her was terrible. Intelligence had confirmed the Omega device existed. Worse, they had confirmed there were 12 of them, each positioned to target a different human colony. The Elder Council was preparing to activate them all simultaneously. Humanity would be wiped out in less than an hour. Earth's military analysts had calculated the options. They could strike first, use the ghost drive to reach every elder species' homeworld simultaneously, and destroy them before they could react. Billions of alien civilians would die, but humanity would survive. It would be genocide, but it would guarantee survival. Tell me again why we shouldn't do it, Boram said quietly. Minho stepped forward. He looked as tired as she felt. Because we'd become exactly what they think we are. Dangerous. Savage. Primitive. We'd win the war, but lose who we are. And if we don't do it? If they activate those devices? Then we lose everything, Minho admitted. But there's a third option. Captain Do-yoon has volunteered for a solo mission. 1 ship, 1 target, 1 message. Jiwan pulled up a tactical display of the Velkari home system. It was ringed with defense stations, patrolled by thousands of ships, protected by shields that could withstand a supernova. Do-yoon will take his flagship alone into Velkari space, Jiwan explained. He'll use the ghost drive to appear directly above their capital city. Then, he'll detonate a ghost drive in their upper atmosphere. Boram frowned. Detonate? You mean destroy his own ship? It won't destroy the ship, said Dr. Soman Han, appearing on the comm screen. She looked excited despite the circumstances. The ghost drive uses dark matter as its power source. If we deliberately overload it in a planetary atmosphere, It creates a cascading energy wave, completely harmless to organic life, but visible from anywhere in the system. The sky will literally catch fire. Harmless? Completely. It'll look terrifying, but it won't hurt anyone. However, the Velkari will know that we could have set it to actually detonate. But we chose not to. Borum understood. We prove we can kill them, but we show mercy instead. Exactly, Jiwan said. We show them that humans are better than they are. That we're not monsters. Maybe, just maybe, it convinces them to surrender before they use the Omega devices. And if it doesn't work, silence filled the room. They all knew the answer. If it didn't work, humanity would die trying to be better than their enemies. Borum closed her eyes. She thought about the billions of people on Earth, the colonists on 40 different worlds, the children who would never grow up if she made the wrong choice. The weight of it was crushing, but she thought about something else too. About what it meant to be human, about choosing to be good even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Do it, she said finally. Tell Captain Doyun to proceed, and may whatever gods are watching protect him. Far from Earth, Captain Doyun Park sat alone in his flagship. The rest of his crew had been transferred off. This mission required only one person. If something went wrong, no one else would die with him. He thought about his sister, Commander Unji. She had wanted to come with him, but he refused. Someone had to survive to tell their parents what happened. This is Earth Command. Admiral Minho's voice came through the comm. You are authorized to begin your mission. Good luck, Captain. Thank you, sir, Doyun replied. He looked at the navigation computer. One jump. That's all it would take. From Earth space, directly to the Velkari homeworld. Impossible for any other species. But humans had learned to do impossible things. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. Ghost drive charging. Coordinates locked. Shields at maximum. Not that shields would help much, if this went wrong. Jumping in. 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted. For a moment, Doyun saw every possibility. Every timeline. Every choice that had led him here. Then, he was through. The Velkari homeworld filled his viewport. A beautiful planet, he noticed. Blue oceans. Green continents. Cities that glittered like jewels. 3 billion Velkari lived down there. Not soldiers. Not politicians. Just people living their lives. And he could kill them all. The thought made him sick. But that was good. If it didn't make him sick, he wouldn't be human anymore. Unidentified vessel. You have violated Velkari space. A panicked voice came over the comm. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed. Doyun opened a broadcast channel. He wanted everyone to hear this. Every Velkari on the planet. Every ship in the system. Every member of the Elder Council. My name is Captain Doyun Park, of the United Earth Defense Force. I come with a message for Chancellor Vex Tar and the Elder Council. You plan to use the Omega devices to destroy humanity. But before you do, I want you to understand something. Below him, cities were going on alert. Defense satellites were powering up. Thousands of ships were changing course to intercept him. They were too late. You think we're primitives, savages. You think because we're young, we're weak. But you're wrong. We're strong enough to end you. Watch. Doyun activated the ghost drive overload sequence. Dr. Salmon's calculations began playing out. Dark matter energy cascaded through the drive core, building to critical levels. In 30 seconds, it would discharge into the atmosphere. This is what we could do to you. Doyun continued calmly. We could turn your beautiful world into dust. We could kill everyone you love. We could end your entire species. We have the power. We have the opportunity. And you've given us every reason to do it. 20 seconds. The sky above the Velkari capital was beginning to shimmer as energy leaked from the overloading drive. But we won't. Because unlike you, We don't murder innocent people. Unlike you, we know that being powerful doesn't mean being cruel. Unlike you, we choose to be better. 10 seconds. The sky was glowing now. Waves of rainbow colors rippling through the atmosphere like an aurora on fire. This is humanity's only warning. Stand down. Dismantle the Omega devices. End this war. Or the next time we come to your world, we won't show mercy. 5 seconds. Choose wisely, Chancellor, because you won't get another chance. The ghost drive discharged. Energy exploded outward in a perfect sphere, spreading through the upper atmosphere at the speed of light. The entire sky turned to fire. Not real fire. Energy. Fire. Harmless but beautiful and terrible. Every Valkyrie on the planet looked up and saw their death written in the sky. Saw it. And realized it hadn't come. Doyun's ship jumped away before the defense forces could reach him. He emerged back in Earth space, his mission complete. His hands were shaking. He had been holding humanity's future in those hands, and he hadn't dropped it. Mission accomplished, he reported to Admiral Minho. On the Valkyrie homeworld, Chancellor Vextar stood in his palace, staring up at the sky. The colors were fading now, but he could still see the afterglow, could still feel the terror that had gripped him when he thought his world was ending. The human had spared them. Had every reason to kill them. Had the power to kill them. But chose not to. Why? For the first time in 3,000 years, Vextar felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. The certainty that had guided his entire species, the belief that being ancient meant being superior, cracked like thin ice. What if they were wrong? What if humans weren't primitives? What if they were simply different? An aide rushed into the chamber. Chancellor, the other Elder Council members are demanding an immediate meeting. They want to activate the Omega devices now, before humanity can strike again. Vextar looked at the aide. Looked up at the sky. Looked at his own clawed hands that had signed the order for genocide without hesitation. No, he said quietly. Chancellor, no. Vextar's voice was stronger now. Summon the council. But not to activate the Omega devices. To discuss surrender terms. The aide stared in shock. Surrender? The Valkyrie Empire didn't surrender. They had never surrendered in 3,000 years. But they had never faced humans before. Across the galaxy, the news spread. The Valkyrie homeworld had been reached. Touched. Could have been destroyed. Wasn't. Humanity had shown mercy when vengeance would have been justified. Smaller species that had been forced into the war began openly defying the Elder Council. If humans could show mercy to their worst enemies, maybe they deserved to win. Maybe they deserved to survive. Senator Kren sent another message to Ambassador Jiwan. You did it. The Elder Council is fracturing. Some want to fight to the end. But many, including Chancellor Vextar, are talking about peace. You proved something today that we had forgotten. That being strong and being kind aren't opposites. They're the same thing. Thank you for reminding us. Jiwan read the message with tears in her eyes. Maybe, just maybe, this war could end without humanity becoming monsters. Maybe they could win and still be themselves. President Borum appeared on screen. Ambassador, we're receiving a transmission from Conclave Prime. It's Chancellor Vextar. He's requesting to speak with you directly. Jiwan took a deep breath. Put him through. Vextar's face appeared. He looked old suddenly. Tired. His unblinking eyes held something new. Respect. Ambassador Kim, he said quietly. I believe it is time we talked about ending this war. Jiwan felt hope bloom in her chest like a flower in spring. Yes, Chancellor, she replied. I believe it is. The grand amphitheater on Conclave Prime looked different than it had 6 months ago. Then, it had been filled with certainty and arrogance. Now, uncertainty hung in the air, like smoke. Ambassador Jiwan Kim walked to the human delegation pod. This time, she wasn't alone. Admiral Minho Choi walked beside her, in his dress uniform. Captain Doyun Park, the man who had touched the untouchable Velkari homeworld, followed behind. Commander Yoonji Park, Dr. Soman Han, and Lieutenant Ji-young Kang completed the delegation. They were humanity's representatives. But more than that, they were proof of what humans could do when pushed. The chamber filled slowly. 10,000 species, just like before. But the mood was completely different. Before, they had looked at humanity with hostility. Now, many looked away in shame. Others watched with open curiosity, some with fear. And a few, like Senator Quern, with something that might have been hope. Chancellor Vex Tar rose from his throne. He looked older than he had 6 months ago. The war had aged him in ways that 3,000 years hadn't. When he spoke, his voice lacked the certainty it had once carried. The Galactic Senate recognizes Ambassador Ji-won Kim of Earth. Ji-won stepped forward. She remembered standing in this same spot, alone and defiant, as the galaxy voted to destroy her people. Now she stood here again. But everything had changed. Chancellor Vex Tar. Members of the Senate. 6 months ago, you declared war on humanity. You gave us 30 days to surrender. You expected us to fall within weeks. She paused, looking around the chamber. We didn't. Murmurs echoed through the amphitheater. Some angry, some embarrassed. All uncomfortable. You sent fleets to crush our colonies. We destroyed them. You sent more. We captured them. You gathered an army of 10,000 ships. We defeated them without killing a single crew member. Ji-won's voice was calm, stating facts without bragging. You planned to use the Omega devices to commit genocide against my species. We proved we could do the same to you. Then, chose not to. Vex Tar's scales seemed to lose some of their shimmer. We did. All of this is true. So why are we here, Chancellor? What does the mighty Galactic Senate want from primitive humanity now? The question hung in the air. Everyone knew the answer. But someone had to say it. Vex Tar stood. His clawed hands gripped the edges of his podium. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he spoke 4 words that would echo through history. We surrender unconditionally. The chamber exploded into chaos. Some species cheered. Others protested. Many simply sat in stunned silence. The Velkari Empire, 3,000 years old, master of the trade routes, leader of the Elder Council, had just surrendered to a species that had been in space for 30 years. Ji-won waited for the noise to die down. When it did, she spoke again. Why? Vex Tar looked confused. Why? Yes, why surrender? You still have millions of ships, thousands of worlds. You could fight for years, decades. Maybe you'd even win eventually. So why surrender now? Vex Tar was silent for a long moment. Then he began to speak, and his words came from someplace deep and honest. Because your Captain Park showed us something we had forgotten. When he appeared above our homeworld, we knew we were dead. We knew it absolutely. We had declared war on you. We had tried to exterminate you. We had given you every reason to hate us. And you had the power to end us. He paused, his unblinking eyes meeting Ji-won's. But you didn't. You showed mercy when vengeance would have been justified. You showed restraint when destruction would have been easier. You showed us that being powerful and being good are not opposites. They are the same thing. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. You showed us what we should have been, all along. Senator Kren stood. The Chancellor speaks truth. But there is more. Over these 6 months, we have learned things about the Senate that shame us. We have learned that the Elder Council ruled not through wisdom, but through fear. We have learned that smaller species were forced to vote against their conscience. We have learned that this war was not about protecting the galaxy. It was about protecting the power of the few. Other senators began standing. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Humanity's crime was not aggression, Kren continued. It was success. You created the Ghost Drive and offered to share it freely. The Elder Council refused because it would end their monopoly on trade. They couldn't control you, so they tried to destroy you. But in trying to destroy you, they destroyed themselves instead. A senator from the Thoraxian hive stood. My species voted for war. We were told humanity was dangerous. But the only danger was to the corrupt system that had ruled for too long. I apologize to humanity. And I support whatever terms you demand. One by one, species rose to speak. Some apologized. Some thanked humanity for exposing the truth. Some simply asked for forgiveness. President Borum Yoon appeared on the main display screen, broadcasting from Earth. She looked tired, but satisfied. Members of the Senate. I am President Borum Yoon of the United Earth Government. Ambassador Kim speaks with my full authority, but I wanted to address you directly. Humanity did not want this war. We wanted to be part of the galactic community. We wanted to learn from you, trade with you, grow alongside you. She paused, letting her words sink in. You forced us to fight. But we didn't fight to conquer you. We fought to free you. Not just from the threat you posed to us, but from the system that had enslaved you all. The Elder Council's tyranny ended not when we destroyed your fleets, but when we showed mercy to your homeworlds. When we proved that being strong doesn't require being cruel. Borum's expression softened. We accept your surrender, but we have no interest in ruling you. We propose instead the new Conclave Accords, a true democracy where all species, old and young, have equal voices, where technology is shared freely, where no one species holds power over others, where the galaxy works together instead of living under the thumb of ancient empires. Admiral Minho stepped forward in the amphitheater. The Omega devices are being dismantled as we speak. Human and allied forces have secured all 12 locations. This technology is too dangerous to exist. We're destroying it completely. Including the research that created it. Captain Doyun spoke next. The ships we captured are being returned to their species. Crews are being released unharmed. We kept them safe because we understood something important. They were soldiers following orders. The war wasn't their fault, Commander Yunji added. Special operations teams from multiple species are working together to root out the last remnants of the Elder Council's secret police. Some members have fled. We'll find them. But there will be trials, not executions. Justice, not revenge. Dr. Salmon smiled. The Ghost Drive technology is now public domain. Every species can have it. Travel times across the galaxy are about to drop dramatically. Trade that took months will now take days. This is humanity's gift to you all. Lieutenant Ji Young, the young pilot who had led the defense of Prometheus Station, spoke last. I'm 26 years old. I've spent my entire adult life preparing for war. I'm really tired of fighting. I'd like to spend the rest of my life exploring this beautiful galaxy in peace. I think we all would. The vote on the new Conclave Accords was called. This time, there was no rushed deliberation. The debate lasted 3 days. Every species had their say. Concerns were addressed. Amendments were made. It was messy and loud, and sometimes frustrating. It was democracy. The final vote came on the 3rd day. Jiwan stood in the human pod, watching the lights appear across the chamber. Blue for yes, red for no. The chamber filled with blue, not because anyone forced them. Final count. 9,998 inches. Favor. 2. Against. The new Conclave Accords are approved. Vextar announced. His voice held something it hadn't before. Relief. The war is over. The old system is ended. A new era begins. Cheering erupted throughout the amphitheater. Species that had been enemies weeks ago embraced. Jiwan found herself surrounded by alien delegates wanting to thank her, apologize to her, or simply touch her as if to confirm she was real. Senator Kren pushed through the crowd. When she reached Jiwan, she bowed deeply. Thank you. For everything. You saved us from ourselves. We saved each other. Jiwan replied. That's what the galaxy should be. Not old species ruling young ones, but all species helping each other. 10 years passed. Prometheus Station, once the furthest human outpost, had become something much more. Governor Taeyang Xin walked through the main plaza, marveling at what it had become. Humans worked alongside Velkari. Thoraxians shared meals with Ashari. Children of 100 different species played together in the parks. Lieutenant Commander Ji Young Kang, now in charge of the multi-species fighter wing, trained pilots from across the galaxy. The Ghost Drive had revolutionized everything, and mixed-species crews were now common. Dr. Salman Han ran a research facility where scientists from every major species collaborated on projects that would have been impossible before. Medicine, energy, food, production. The galaxy was solving problems together that no single species could have handled alone. Commander Yunji Park led peacekeeping forces that stopped the few conflicts that still arose. But there were fewer conflicts now. When species worked together, there was less reason to fight. Captain Doyun Park had retired from military service. He now taught strategy at the new Galactic Academy, training the next generation of leaders. His most popular lesson was titled, Why Mercy is Strength. Admiral Minho Choi had become the first Secretary of Defense for the Galactic Commonwealth. He spent his days ensuring the military existed to protect, not conquer. President Boram Yoon had served 2 terms and retired peacefully. She now traveled the galaxy, giving speeches about the importance of democracy and equal rights. Ambassador Jiwon Kim had become the first human chancellor of the Galactic Senate. She sat in the same seat Vex Tar once occupied, but she wielded her power differently. Not to dominate, but to facilitate. Not to rule, but to serve. On this particular day, she sat on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt amphitheater, sharing tea with former Chancellor Vex Tar. He was ancient now, even by Velkari standards. But his eyes were clearer than they had been in centuries. Do you ever regret it? He asked. Jiwon smiled. Every single day. Vextar looked surprised. I regret all the time we wasted fighting, Jiwon explained. All the lives lost. All the fear and hatred. We could have been working together from the beginning. We could have accomplished so much more. But you're asking the wrong question. 1. When time stan, when Kane cleated on, what should I ask? Ask me if I regret choosing to be better than you. Ask me if I regret proving that humans are more than primitives with fancy weapons. Ask me if I regret building a galaxy where my grandchildren will grow up surrounded by friends instead of enemies. She set down her tea and looked directly at him. The answer to those questions is no. Never. Not once. Vextar nodded slowly. We declared war on you because we feared what you might become. But you became exactly what we needed. Teachers who showed us we had forgotten what civilization truly means. And what does it mean? That being ancient doesn't make you wise. Being powerful doesn't make you right. Being first doesn't make you best. He smiled. Something his species rarely did. Civilization means choosing to be better than your worst impulses. It means mercy. It means justice. It means helping others even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you. Jiwan raised her teacup in a toast. To the galaxy we're building together. Vextar raised his own cup. To the galaxy humanity saved. They drank in comfortable silence, watching ships of 1,000 different species pass overhead. each one using the ghost drive technology humanity had freely shared, each one carrying people who were no longer divided into elder and younger species. Just people. Just citizens of a galaxy learning to be better. Somewhere in the vast amphitheater below, young beings from hundreds of species were attending their first Senate session, learning how democracy worked, how to debate without fighting, how to disagree without hate. One of them was human. A girl, barely 20 years old, bright-eyed and eager. She would someday be chancellor too, but unlike Ji-won, she would grow up in a galaxy that already knew humans weren't primitives. She would inherit a universe where the question wasn't whether humans deserved a seat at the table, but how to make the table bigger so everyone fit. That, Ji-won thought, was worth fighting for. The stars shone brighter now. Not because the darkness had lessened, but because 10,000 species had learned a simple truth. Even the smallest light refuses to be extinguished, and when lights come together, they become something beautiful. They become hope.